Hello and welcome to Gag of the Millennial.
A show where we talk about pop culture, current events.
And spill the hot Darjeeling right into your lap.
Ooh,
Scoldy
Scoldy
Woldy.
Woldy.
I just clipped you.
You did. She attacked me. She viciously assaulted me.
In the boudoir.
I saw that.
I saw that.
So, hi guys. What is the tea? What
Yes.
is the Darjeeling?
Hello and welcome back to another episode.
Episode 17.
Is it actually?
Actually, episode 17.
Ooh, TV
Ooh,
17.
I know, yes.
Ah.
X-rated. Ooh, shake that,
Ooh,
listeners.
yes. Susan stepping down.
Immediately demonetized. Hi, everyone. How are you all doing?
Yes.
Hello, Luxy Poosh.
Hello.
How are you?
Ah, dead.
She's
as
dead.
usual.
She's dead. She
Yeah.
is dead.
You have resurrected me for this
Yeah,
to talk about a favourite topic of ours.
Oh, we didn't play the backing screen, dear.
Oh dear. Oh, that's good. Aren't you clever?
I know. People on SoundCloud are like, what's happening?
What's a backing screen?
What's a backing screen?
Yeah, what's all that about?
So, guys, today we are talking all about
Video
video games.
games.
Yes, bitch. So, it's going to be a massive nostalgic hit. It's going to be very, it's just weak. Oh, I'm scared.
Yeah, I'm almost a little bit emotional as we
I know.
speak. Sopping,
Her
girls.
eyes are dripping, girls.
Yes.
So I'm really interested to know if any of the younger people who do watch us, so Gen Z, if any of you guys even know some of the old stuff we might
Yeah.
talk about. I really want to know what your experience is with video games growing up. We should take it back to literal infants. And
Yes, I will do.
I want to talk. I will do.
I will do.
I will.
I'll take it there. I saw that.
I saw that. You're trying to convert me. So, guy, okay, I'm just gonna pre-warn you.
Off the handle today, girls. Oh, I've never said that.
We're kind of like a bit hyper, but too much like caffeine. Let's take it back all the way to like the early 90s. Now, what was your first understanding of video games? Because I feel like I was very lucky because I kind of always had consoles growing up. I don't really know why. I'm pretty sure most of them were hand-me-downs, but we were always very lucky with that kind of stuff. I know some people might say it's not lucky because you should be outside, not playing video games. Get a grip.
Yeah, get a grip.
But
Get a real job.
So my auntie Linda, she was always very like techie, and her husband always had like really high tech stuff all the time. So I'm pretty sure we had like their old consoles and things as they got bored, and we would kind of like they would get new ones all the time. So like my first kind of memory is with the Master System and the Mega Drive.
Ooh.
Now, do you remember playing Alex Kidd? Do you ever play Alex Kidd?
I did, but I didn't have any of the Sega consoles when I was growing up.
Oh, did you
no,
not?
my cousins had them, so whenever I went over to them, I'd be like, oh my god, we're going to play Sega, girls!
Oh my God.
Sonic the Hedgehog!
So,
yeah, we didn't have that.
We had a Master System 2, and that one had Alex Kidd already like pre-installed.
Master System 2?
Yeah,
What's
there was
that?
Like Master System 2 was like the second one they made. It was like their second.
Oh, so they did like a reiteration of the Master System?
Yeah,
and
yeah,
just called it Master System 2?
Yeah, it's Master System 2, and it had like it was like a flap in the top. that
Very
opened.
Nintendo
It
Switch.
It did, yeah, it does. It actually looked a little bit like the original Nintendo when you had to kind of like open up the flap.
Oh,
and
yeah,
then
the flap.
But ours, it was like a black console, and it opened up the flap
Yeah.
there, and you put the game in. But ours had Alex Kidd pre-installed in it.
Yes,
It was
I
like
remember this.
So some of them had Sonic 1. They actually recently made a remastered version. I got it on my Xbox. But so I remember playing that, and it was notoriously difficult.
Oh, yeah.
So difficult. And like on the first level, when the ghost would come out, there's like a little skull section that you'd walk in, like a skull box. And if you walked over it, like a ghost came out of it. And being literally like 4 years old, it was always the most terrifying thing, seeing these like little pathetic like 8-pixel ghosts coming.
It's the same as playing like, I don't know, Dead Space or Resident Evil now. You're just like,
exactly. But Alex Kidd was one of my first ever kind of games I really played. And of course, then it very quickly went on to Sonic because we had a Master System and a Mega Drive at the same time.
Bougie woman.
Because realistically, by the time we were old enough to kind of game, like the PlayStation was already out. We're not really the Master System generation. Or
Well,
the
no,
Mega
see,
Drive.
I even had things before, like consoles.
Oh, did you?
Yeah, so I had something called, maybe some of the older generations of the audience might know this, a ZX Spectrum.
Oh, a Spectrum, yeah.
A Spectrum, girls.
Yeah.
Now, for all the children who don't know what a Spectrum is, it was this weird keyboard with a cassette deck that you could plug into your TV, and video games came on cassette tapes.
So can you explain something to me? Because
Yes.
I don't understand how cassette tape games worked.
I have absolutely no idea. I'm assuming it's to do with like a sound or a frequency that they produce when they are like read. The cassette was kind of like a loading device. It's kind of like, It's really difficult to explain. It's almost it would load it onto the little RAM module, and then you'd be able to play it for that RAM. And then as soon as you turned it off, that RAM module would wipe. You'd have to that. It's almost like installing the game every single time.
Yes.
Oh my gosh, the way that these computers worked. Like you put your favorite cassette in. Mine, for example. So I had three really well played games. We're talking what? I must have been 4 years old, so this is like 1993.
And that console would have been really old by the time
that was in the 70s.
Yeah.
So my mum was like fully addicted to this thing called Bomb Jack, and it was just like the most basic platformer where you had to like fly about and just like drop a little bomb on things. Oh, let's not go there. So my absolute favorite thing was something called Attic Attack, and it was my first introduction to like witches and wizards. And it was this really, really, really early pixel art. It was very purple, and you had like an 8-bit. I guess it probably wasn't even 8-bit. It was probably even like smaller than that.
I'm not
like,
sure.
Really pixelated character. You'd put in the cassette, and it would be like 35 minutes of playing this noise that was like as it was loading.
I feel like that's what people hear when we talk to each other.
Literally. So, thank you. Yes, very much. So it almost sounded a bit like, you remember dial-up? It was like, it was very that. It's like data sounds. And if you disrupted your spectrum whilst this was going, you could be like 34 minutes into loading it, and it would be like, turn it off, time to start again, reload it from 0. And if it crashed, same thing. So you'd eventually load in, and this thing called Attic Attack was this very basic top-down game that you would like. It was almost like a scroller, so you'd scroll along one side and it would like load to the next page, and it was really small, and you'd have to like fire a little wand at enemies. And this was like my first thing of being like, oh my god, magic! I love it, it's amazing, I'm gonna be a witch. There was another game for the Spectrum which is probably the most influential in terms of my like really early gaming career, because now I'm a Twitch streamer. Gaming career, girls. There was a game called Quake for ZX Spectrum. My mum was fully addicted to this. So you played this like little round creature, kind of a bit like Kirby, but you were grey, and you had big eyes, and you just kind of had to like avoid all these little like flying creatures and like walk along this little platform. And I think the idea was get back to your spaceship to come home. I think you like fell out of your spaceship and you had to like traverse like the moon, Mars, all the different planets to get back to your spaceship and go to the next level. My mum was so addicted to this, and my mum was a freelance illustrator, that she mapped out the entire game on this big, like, her drawing desk.
Oh my god!
Of, like this, I guess it was like an A0 fold-away map, and because there was no such thing as save games, there was no such thing as like password level. She was like, right, I'm going to remember where every single thing is that you have to do.
Oh my god!
And she wrote out this huge thing with all these little like technical bits being like leap here, jump here, like avoid
Your
this
mum sounds
enemy.
awesome.
She was obsessed with this game, absolutely obsessed. I guess it's the first kind of like, if you can imagine like platform kind of RPG, but there wasn't any like skills based. It was just kind of like you get better rather than you're improving your character. You get better at playing it. Then I think I got the NES afterwards, the original Nintendo with like Duck Hunt, and you could shoot the gun at the screen, and everyone was like, "What is this technology, girls? The children!" It was amazing.
The children, girls. I do love the Nintendo. I was always a Sega fanboy compared to the Nintendo. We had a Nintendo and a Super Nintendo, and I really loved them, but I was definitely a Sega fanboy because so my most fond era that I really look back to is the Sega Mega Drive and the Sega Genesis.
Having your friends come over after school. It's a bit cold outside. You go, you put on your little Sega and you just play Sonic 2 and you play together. The idea that like for a while there was no like couch co-op games is
mad and
wild to me.
Insane.
Because to me gaming is fundamentally a social experience. Like you can play through a game and it's fun, but like the ones that keep making me come back to them are the ones that you can play with other people.
I think some of my like favorite games that I played for the Mega Drive, of course I have to talk about Mortal Kombat. And like, so it wasn't even my game, it was my friend Tarrell, and we used to go to school together, and we would like share games all the time on Mega Drive, so he lent me his Mortal Kombat, and I didn't know at the time that there was such thing as like the blood code and like fatalities. And I remember I used to play it all the time because I loved fighting games back in the 90s.
Same.
And I would always be like playing. This one time, I remember playing against Sonya Blade, and she did a fatality on me, and I was so confused. I was like, "What just happened? Like what?" And it planted that seed of my mind that secrets. Because I didn't really know at that point, because I would have only been maybe 6 or 7. I didn't understand secrets in games. games and all that kind of stuff. That was like one of those life-changing moments. I was like, there's bad things in games.
Naughty.
It's insane that literally games like Mortal Kombat is the reason we have ratings on video games today.
It is. But also the idea that like the first Mortal Kombat, when it was released, I think it came out first on the Sega and then it was released on the Nintendo system.
So it was an arcade first and then got ported to all the other systems. But Nintendo were like, no blood, no awful, and they muted it all.
They did mute it all, but you can still get access to the blood on certain versions of it, because I had one on the original Mortal Kombat.
Oh, she had a hacked version.
Yeah, on Super Nintendo, and it was like I think it even had a rating on it, and I remember thinking, now looking back at it, I'm like, why did this pixelated like cartoon comic book graphic thing? But at the time, people were like, "There's blood everywhere.
It's gonna corrupt the children."
Just, like looking back now, it's like that's one pinprick of red on a pixel.
There was other games that I loved on the Mega Drive, such as James Pond. You ever heard of James Pond?
That stupid frog.
He was
red frog.
It was like a frog,
and you could extend.
I think it was a fish. Well, yeah,
was it a fish? Yeah.
It was a goldfish. He was a goldfish.
It was a goldfish, yeah.
And you could extend him to like reach his legs and stuff. But my favorite was James Pond 3. It was called Was it RoboCod? Oh. I think it was. But it was.
The fish puns.
It was the third one, but it was like weirdly, the James Pond 3 had like this weird dark element to it, and it was really like creepy, and you were on like different planets and stuff. It was so different from like James Pond 1 and 2 that like I was obsessed with it. But that had loads of sequels, and they had like find different like exits and things. But that was really hard. But oh my god, like I've always loved spooky, creepy kind of games.
Yeah.
Even so, things like Mickey Mouse Castle of Illusion.
Oh, that was wild.
Like that, the old Disney games from the Mega Drive, like that era. I know some of them do on Nintendo as well, but the era of those Disney games was so good.
They were difficult as well.
Oh. So,
impossible.
Do you know why they made them so hard?
No, I don't.
So back in the early days, before the way that things are now,
yeah.
So like in the Blockbuster days, where you go and rent games and stuff, they intentionally made games so difficult. Now the Lion King on the Mega Drive, the people who made the game have come out and said this, and this is a fact, that they make these games so difficult that if you go to rent them from Blockbuster, you cannot complete them with one rental. So you have to continually rent it. So they constantly make money, and it's the same with arcade machines and arcades.
The pyramid scheme.
Yeah. So like arcade games in like the arcades, they're so difficult because they want you to keep coming back and trying more. Because if it was really easy, you would just go away.
You'd be like, oh, that was fun. Never come
obviously,
back.
with the way the world is now, you couldn't really do that. But that's the reason why back then they were so difficult. But like Aladdin on the Mega Drive as well. Did you ever play the Mega Drive? No, did you not? No. It was so good. It was so good. And the level skip code, ABBAABBA. I know you saw some of the Lion King I played, but I recently played through the Mega Drive version of the Lion King on Twitch. And the second level is so hard. I was like, how did we ever complete this as children? Like, even just literally, there was a part we have to swing against these rhinos' tails.
Oh, yes.
You have to jump between one and one. And I was like, what is the collision mechanic here? Because you're literally on the tail and you just fall off.
Yeah.
You're like, no. What happened?
Yeah.
Like, why?
Yeah.
But Disney games, guys, please comment down below what are your favorite Disney games. There are so many. I could talk like literally Donald Duck's Quack Shot, so good. Donald Duck in Maloomalard, so good. There were so many amazing Disney games for the Mega Drive.
Actually, I want to talk about a Disney game that was for not Super Nintendo, for the original Nintendo Entertainment System.
Yep.
I believe it was called like Mickey's Magic Castle or like Disney Magic Castle or something, and it was a collection of basically like loads of different mini games, and there was a runaway train. I guess it's kind of inspired by the runaway mine train, which is I guess the ride at Disneyland Paris.
Yeah.
And it was like you had to control this train of like not collision into things and coming off the rails. I mean, you'd never have that in a video game now.
No, could you imagine?
It'd be like in a Disney game being like, come on children, crash the train. And it was so difficult. And it was like you can't progress onto the next part of the game unless you actually completed this level. So it was like I kept coming back to it and being like, I'm gonna die! Like, I just need to get this done. And that level of frustration is something that now, if I feel it on stream, I'm like, let's just stop playing.
Just stop playing and leave.
Playing now. Yeah, I need to be entertaining. Don't care.
Life systems is really like, you don't see that anymore.
Life systems?
Like lives. You have like 10 lives left. Once your 10 lives
yes.
is gone,
Yeah.
like you never find that really now in games, I find.
Yeah,
like it's always very much like you just save places. Because even like when I was playing like Donkey Kong Country recently.
Oh, yeah.
And you have live systems on that, and I was like, it's again, Donkey Kong Country is one of those games on the Super Nintendo. It's so difficult.
That one was. I remember renting that when I was a child and being like, I can't. That's so annoying. And then there was Diddy Kong as well. It's so frustrating.
But like recently playing that, it was annoying that like you had save points, and like if you died, then you have to go back like 5 levels because that was the last save point. And like it feels like such a weird system now to have. That
it's like a pure punishment.
Yeah,
system
it's
for
literally
children.
like I fucking hate you.
I suppose it does in a way teach that like the good things, like it really makes it worth it when you like manage to beat the part that you've been stuck on for ages.
Yeah.
So talking about like Super Nintendo, that was my like real early childhood growing up like console. I guess in a similar way to Mega Drive or the Genesis with you.
Yeah.
Is there was one game that has completely introduced me to the concept of the RGP. No, is that right? RPG.
The RGP.
The RGP, the Royal Gusset Brigade.
My favourite cult. Yeah, the Royal Gusset Brigade.
P.
Yeah.
Poonth.
Poonth.
Poonth. There is a game called The Illusion of Time.
That sounds fun.
Oh, it was so bloody good. In America, it was also known as The Illusion of Gaia. And it was basically, you are this character called Will. His parents were killed on they went on an excavation. They went on an adventure somewhere.
Okay.
And they were archaeologists going to investigate the Tower of Babel.
Ooh.
So it had like odd religious tones to it. And it also had like ancient world tones. So like it was all based around like going around the world as we know it now.
Yeah.
But it was before like technology had arrived and there was like a land of magic and
That
mystery.
sounds fun.
It is so good. Considering it's like just like a top-down like 2D RPG. Incredible. And even to this day I'm still like, oh my goodness, like I really want to go and play it on stream at some point. So I remember I was an only child, still am an only child. No, they haven't been at it like rabbits.
No.
Don't you worry. So I remember there used to be a shop in. Do you remember The Dip? From a couple of episodes, I was like The Dip. So The Dip in Brighton had a shop called Video Star. Do you remember Video Star?
No, I don't.
No, maybe they didn't make it out of The Dip.
No.
And there you could go there and rent video games. The Dip. And there was this little like section of like video games that you could rent. So there were Super Nintendo games, there were Nintendo games, and I think they then started bringing in PlayStation 1 games, and that was like taking over everything else.
Yeah.
And I would always beg my dad, I'd be like, please go and rent Illusion of Time. And you could only have three game spaces on the game. So if somebody else had rented it, they could potentially like override your game save. And that was like, oh no, don't. So I'd always be like, please go and rent it for the weekend. Please go and rent it for the weekend. And then my dad eventually, as the PlayStation 1 came in, he saw it in the bargain bucket to be sold, and he was like,
amazing,
I've got that. And I died when I saw it. I was like, this is the happiest child you've
She's
ever
actually
seen.
dead. She's actually a
I am
ghost.
a spectre now.
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah.
But the premise of this game was you are Will, your parents have gone off to the Tower of Babel and died in the old world.
And died!
And you are literally like trying to understand what happened to them. And it's you and your like friends. So you go to this like cave at your like, you start off in Cape Town, which is obviously a real city in South Africa.
South Africa, yeah.
You have this like cave by the seashore and you go there with your friends and you can play the flute and nobody else can play an instrument in like your town. And everyone's like, when you play the instrument, things move. And so you have this like telekinesis ability with your
Oh, very
flute.
eye Jesse.
Yeah. El Gato.
El Gato.
But no, it's really intense because you have to play this card game and you can like already know the cards and your friends are all like amazing blah, and then you all have to go to bed and suddenly the village is like attacked overnight and you start your journey and you're like trying to find your friends and reunite your friends, and it's got some really like adult themes, like one of your friends, spoiler alert for this game, it came out in the 80s,
Jack also dies in Titanic.
one of your friends dies in the game and it's really like because it's like your best friend and they die and it's like, oh my goodness. So they go to the afterlife and then you have to like go all around all of the continents. You go to ancient Inca, you go to like,
this seems very big for a Super Nintendo game.
It's insanely bad. I played it for hours now. It took me like years to complete.
Oh wow.
So do you remember also that there was talk about that secret continent in real life that actually sank?
Yes.
So it was
Atlantis.
No, it's not Atlantis. It's the one that like people can kind of call Atlantis, but there was like a concept of basically this giant area of land that after the last Ice Age.
Ooh.
After the last Ice Age sank.
Okay.
You know, like this concept.
Yeah.
So it's actually in this game, and it's called Mew, and it's this like underwater world filled with vampires.
Oh, okay.
And it is so, the bosses in this level are so intense. They're called Jack and Sylvana, and they're two old like vampires, and the mechanics of this battle is insane. You end up having to unlock this dark magic that transforms you into a knight of like the old realm, and you're this like magical knight that can defeat. It's so bonkers.
Sounds very Castlevania.
And you literally end up going to space to find like the old world and understand like what happened to your parents and what happened to the world. And at the very, very end, your character ends up like changing the entire planet to fit with technology, as it's like the battle is no longer there, and it's like, and then it's just like the end, and it's like gag worthy. And
did they make sequels and stuff?
No, there was only one game. Only one game, and I was like, ever since, and you can see how like animated. And
you become taken over by another being. Then
literally, this is my like. You know, there's always like one game. Like that's my one game.
I really want to see it.
I'll show you. You'll probably be like, "This is naff. What's all that?" Yeah, it's terrible. But it's had such a like profound effect on me. Growing up, incredible. And that's probably the most important SNES game I ever played.
So we have spoken about this a little bit, but the reason I want to say this is because I think it's so funny that like even to this day I still listen to the soundtracks. It's one of my favorite soundtracks ever. Do you ever play Echo the Dolphin?
Yes. Terrifying. I couldn't play it very much.
What is it about games in those eras? There was so much like creepiness in these games, so like normal. So Echo the Dolphin was this old. You're basically like a dolphin inside this like ocean.
I think that's where I got thalassophobia from, because I can't play it. Yeah, I'm like,
it's spooky.
Scary.
But like, so what happens is a tornado comes and like, well, at the time we think it's a tornado, it comes and like sucks away all of your like dolphin family, dolphin friends from like the ocean, and your mission is to try to like find out what happened.
Yeah.
Turns out the game just goes absolutely insane. It's notoriously difficult.
Yeah.
Again, it's back in the era where you'd purposely make games harder. And it turns out that they were all like abducted by like an alien, and they were like in like a space realm. And the very end boss is like this alien octopus thing.
Oh my god!
Absolutely terrifying. If you were a kid and never played or never finished Echo the Dolphin, just type in like Echo the Dolphin final boss. It's terrifying. And like as a kid, if I saw the boss, it looks like a skull squid alien thing. It's a bit xenomorphy, I guess.
Yeah.
It's so terrifying. It's weird that this game about dolphins, and they made 1 and 2 and 3 and stuff, and you end up traveling through time, going to different dimensions, there's dinosaur levels and stuff, and it's literally a game about trying to find your dolphin family. And they expanded it into this like crazy world of like time travel and aliens. It's like, what happened? Like, how did that happen?
Isn't that amazing? Absolutely incredible.
But the Sega CD version of...
I loved the Sega CD.
See, I never had
Sega
one.
Saturn. It was so good.
No, Sega Saturn's different.
Is it actually?
Sega Saturn...
CD was the
attachment.
Yes.
To the Mega
No,
Drive.
I didn't have that.
So the Sega CD, I never had it, but the Sega CD version of Echo the Dolphin, the soundtrack to that, I still listen to every single day.
Amazing.
It's so good. And I even use some of it in my music. In my videos.
Sneaky.
Yeah.
But
no, I never had the Saturn.
Yeah.
But so when the Sega Saturn came out, I was already onto the PlayStation.
Yeah, same. I think the PlayStation killed Sega Saturn.
The problem is when the Sega Saturn was getting released, they sped up the process because PlayStation was coming out.
Yeah.
And they wanted to beat it.
Yeah.
But unfortunately, because they did that, they fucked over themselves, because so many retailers were like, you haven't told us this is happening. What's going on?
Yeah.
And loads of retailers like pulled out from selling it.
Yeah.
But also the
coding system.
The coding was so difficult that game developers found it so difficult to code games for their console that it completely died. Which is really sad, because really the Sega Dreamcast is what the Sega Saturn should have been. And that's the thing. Like by the time the Dreamcast came out, Sega had lost like all of their money, all of their like loyalty from so many people because of how they treated people with the Sega Saturn.
Was the end.
But like the iconic sound of the Dreamcast opening up with the swirly, it's so good. And
it was the first console that could connect to the internet.
Mad, isn't it?
Yeah.
Mad, absolutely mad. But that's the problem. Like
it had external hard drives.
Crazy.
That you could put into controllers.
Crazy.
Like, the Nintendo Switch is shaking. Go.
Exactly. And this, I think it's maybe like 96, 97. I don't know exactly when that came out. But that's the sad thing. It's really crazy to think that actually, if they weren't money hungry because they were trying to be the best and beat PlayStation, they could still be around now making consoles. But it was their greed and their money that made them
They're such a small company now.
Yeah,
All they do is like out resource. They're basically their merchandisers like Sonic and stuff to other platforms. It's kind of sad, really, the story of Sega.
Yeah.
Podcast right there. The shocking story of Sega Girls.
So, I mean, just because I don't want this to go on for like 8 hours long.
Oh, no, I've got lots of things I want to talk about the PlayStation 1.
That's what look at her getting hasty. So, we're going to quickly just jump on. I mean, again, I could talk about the Super Nintendo for ages and ages and ages. Like, Plonk, Plock, Plonk, Plock. That was Plock. That was such a good game.
Plock.
It was a game called Plock. And then, obviously, the original, like, Street Fighter, Turbo.
Oh, my God, of course.
Street Fighter,
Honda Girls, M. Bison, Blanca.
Absolutely love Street Fighter.
Bianca Del Rio was on it as well.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. But yeah, I mean, I could see it. Did you ever play Sonic Spinball?
No, I didn't.
Sonic Spinball. So I don't know what made them make this pinball Sonic game. It is so insane and hard to complete. Again, but the music in that game as well is so good. So many of the soundtracks and music from that era of games is so good. It's so good. I love Streets of Rage.
Oh yes, of course.
Streets of Rage. Iconic. Golden Axe, one of my favorite games.
Oh yes,
so
Golden
good,
Axe.
so good. The magic is just like when I was a kid watching like all like the dragon come down and fire,
the lightning goes.
Oh my god, like
I loved Golden Axe.
So good. So they kind of ruined it with Golden Axe 3. They kind of went a bit crazy, but Golden Axe 1 and 2 was so good. So PlayStation. I was as a kid really young, sort of like 6, 7. It's kind of hard to have a real understanding of like new consoles coming out, especially back then when like technology and like social media and all that stuff wasn't a thing.
Yeah, it did not exist.
So it's very hard. I think when young people hear people say that, like, how would you not know about things coming as a gaming nerd or whatever? But like, you just didn't know.
Unless you subscribed to a magazine, which was very rare, you just didn't know.
Yeah, it was really hard.
Demo discs.
I'm going to get so I went to my cousin's house, Suzanne, and she had a PlayStation. Now I didn't know what this was, and we played Crash Bandicoot 2.
Crash Bandicoot.
Cortex Strikes Back, go. And I was literally like blown away by this game. I had no idea what this was. Never heard of it before. And obviously this is second iteration. So like PlayStation had been out for a few years at this point, but like I didn't really know what this console was. I was so obsessed. I like literally was like, so
PlayStation.
I got one. I think it was like a year later, but by the time I got mine, it was almost outdated.
Yeah.
But like I was able to get one because it was obviously cheap at that point. And the PlayStation 1
is the most iconic console.
Yes.
I would say even slightly more iconic than PS2.
Yes. I think that PS2 is the best selling console of all time, but I still have more fond memories of PS1. Same. I think because of how monumental it was.
It was the difference between going from like 2D flat like textures to being like 3D worlds.
Yes. And like
needing a disc.
So although like most of these early developers that went into the 3D realm, a lot of them haven't really aged well because it was like the first time they're kind of like doing this in the game.
Of course.
But at the time, it was so amazing. So one of my first, but obviously Crash Bandicoot was like one of my first games of seeing 3D, like, well, it's like 2.5D where it's kind of 3D, but almost still linear.
Yeah.
But there was an incredible game that I played. It was called Legend of Khan Soul Reaver.
Oh, yes, Soul Reaver girls.
Oh, my God. So you're
Legend of Kain.
Legend of Kain, yeah. It was so you're this like vampire who was like cast into the underworld. I don't remember exactly why. I can't remember the exact storyline.
No.
And you have to like try to eat souls and try to stay alive, and you have to try and avenge yourself, by the way, to like get out and get the people who like cast you into the underworld. But what I loved about this game is like you had to like go between 2 dimensions. So like you would find these like little pads, and you would like one would be the underworld and one would be like the normal world.
The overworld, I guess?
The overworld. And like you would like twist space and time and go to these 2 different worlds, and like they would have completely different like there'd be 2, like you'd walk through one place and there'd be like a demon there and some like statues and monuments, and you would change it to the other world, and all of a sudden everything was like different, but like looked even like more decrepit and like spooky. Like the buildings would like warp and like morph into like demonic faces.
Amazing.
And like the demons would become like ghostly demons. It was so good. It was literally, if you have any time on you, you have to play Legend of Kain, Soul Reaver. I have been wanting them to do a HD remaster of this for so long.
Gagging for it.
Begging for it. Like, if anyone has played this game, you will understand how...
If anybody works in video games, please.
Yes. But it was so dark and had such a cool aesthetic, and like just the colors and the visuals were so good. And as a kid, I was like completely in love.
I remember the like menu cutscene. I didn't own it, but I played it when I was over my friend's.
Yeah.
And he was like fully addicted to it. But we used to just play like fighting games mostly together.
Yeah.
But I remember the cutscene of him. He was like standing over a cliff or something. Like looking.
and they break his wings and then throw him into it, into like the abyss. It's like a vortex kind of thing. They throw him into it,
and it's all green and spooky.
It's so good.
The game that I'm going to mention to you now, which I think you played,
is the game.
It's called Thrill Kill.
Thrill Kill. Is that when you like all those like the one that never got released?
Yes,
properly?
So
and
it was
all
an
like
unreleased illegal game, and I don't know how we came across this.
Yes.
It was the most violent, so almost like, it was kind of like revolutionary in terms of like PlayStation 1 fighting games, because you were a 3D model in a 3D space, which was like unhurt. Like everything was still kind of a little bit like 2D, almost 3D. Like Tekken, for example, was still very like 3D models, 2D plane.
Yeah, because the thing is, like, it was still it was very heavily influenced by like the Mortal Kombat era. So many games in that era really took that sort of let's just decapitate people.
Literally.
But this game,
Thrill Kill,
went out the fucking window.
It was the most graphic like thing, and because it was like no publishing house would publish it because it was so graphic. It was an unreleased game, so I don't know how I had a copy of it. I don't know. How did you? Any idea?
I just remember seeing videos of it when I was younger.
It was absolutely insane. There was this character called Violet, and she was like this gothic dominatrix that would make all this like noise as she was like beating people and like cutting their heads off and like eating their entrails. It was so intense.
What was really interesting about this game as well is, which doesn't, most, like a lot of games at the time didn't do this, is like it would, as you were playing it, you could like decapitate limbs and cut limbs off and stuff, and that person then had to carry on fighting without like an arm.
Yeah, literally.
And games never did that before at this point. It was quite a new concept. But the problem was, looking back at it now, it was very problematic by some of the things, because there was like I'm doing quotation marks, people who were like in SoundCloud, like a crazy man who was in like a straitjacket and like couldn't get out, and he was like attacking you with his like legs and stuff. Yeah. Like, there's definitely like problematic depictions of people.
Going on from the absolutely diabolically wild, such as Thrill Kill, one of my absolutely, in fact, 3 of my absolutely favorite games ever released was Final Fantasy VII, Final Fantasy VIII, and Final Fantasy IX.
I cannot tell you the amount of times Luxeria has said to me, you have to play Final Fantasy VII. I've never played it.
You've got to play the remake, though, because you will enjoy it a lot more.
Yes.
So anyone here who's into like alternative style or like gothic games or anything like that will have heard of Final Fantasy. The whole reason why I have my aesthetic that I do, why I've always loved silver hair and white blonde hair, is because all of the villains in Final Fantasy have white, silvery white hair, and they're all like demonic angels being like, actually, you thought that we were good and we're beautiful and we're going to kill you all to save the world and rebuild it in my own image. Basically, so Final Fantasy VII follows the storyline of like someone in Soldier going about and finding out who they are because they've got memory loss and all this like exciting stuff, and they're like, I've just got a friend that I grew up with in school and I'm gonna go and try and impress her and fall in love with her and then eventually kill God. That's like a very abridged version of the game. Final Fantasy VIII follows a similar sort of concept. It's like this one guy who's like really like nonchalant, doesn't give a shit.
Are they all on
anything.
PlayStation 1?
Yeah, so all these 3 are on PlayStation 1. Final Fantasy VIII has one of the best battle systems I've ever used. The concept of... So in Final Fantasy, you can have these things called summons. In Final Fantasy VIII, they're called GFs, Guardian Forces. No, they're basically like a big thing that you can summon into battle and it fights for you and like gets rid of the enemy. And like you junction them to your character, and then your character gains extra abilities from having that Guardian Force attached to them.
Okay.
So it can make your character stronger or make it really good for like status resisting. And it was something that I'd never really seen before then. Like you really needed to think about how you were going to go into each battle.
Yeah.
What you would have, like, especially boss battles, because if someone used a magic spell that you were like, oh, I have nothing to protect against, that, instantly dead. You'd have to think about strategy. And that was one of those times where I was like, I've never really thought, like, I was only 8, never thought about strategy in games before. What are you talking about? So the final boss of Final Fantasy VIII is this gorgeous, she's sorceress, and she's like, I think she's the last sorceress ever born.
Yeah.
And she like uses her consciousness to go back in time and like influence really powerful women to become witches.
Yeah.
And it's called the Succession of the Witches. And her name is Ultimecia. She has long white blonde hair,
Ooh.
claws, like bright golden eyes, has like tits fully out almost, and she's in this like burgundy dress, and she's like, she talks with such like effervescent charisma, but is also like, I'm going to kill you now. And it's, my little heart was like, I'm going to grow up and be that
I'm
woman.
her.
I'm her.
It's me.
And then we moved on to Final Fantasy IX, and Final Fantasy IX's final boss is someone called Kuja, and he is literally a white blonde-haired like demon creature from another planet who is like desperately trying to fight his own demise because he's part of this race that doesn't live very long, and he's like, no, I'm so powerful, why can't I stop death? And he's like really upset and mopey about it, but also like, I'm just going to destroy the world instead. And he is gorgeous.
As you do. I can't stop death. I'm going to destroy the world.
Literally, if I can't have it, no one can. But he rides a silver dragon, like this metallic feathered dragon, and he has a couple of silver feathers in his hair, and it's got long white hair, and he wears a purple and gold bikini with like a long white cape, and he's so like, how fruity goes. For like a child's game, literally just like, the first time you see him, it's like raining hard, and your characters have just been like laying waste, and they're really like, a moment of like struggle, and he just like arrives on this dragon and is like, you're all pathetic, whilst he's literally got like hardly any clothes on, really tall, and just like, I'm going to wipe you out, and he like wipes his brow and just like swishes away, and I was like, I'm gonna be him when I grow up.
That's amazing.
And I've been both of them. I've been Ultimecia now, and previously I was Kuja, because I've always been into silver hair. Such an influential storyline. If you've never played 7, 8, or 9, please go ahead. They're going to make a 9 remake now, and I'm so excited
Maybe I'll play 7 on stream or something, just so I can have people play it with me.
You will love it. It's so good.
Yeah. So, I mean, I do think we mentioned it a tiny bit, about demo discs. Now, it sounds a bit weird to mention demo discs, but was it fortnightly? Or was it monthly?
I think it was monthly.
So every single month you would get like the PlayStation magazine. And they would have a demo disc in it. Now it sounds weird to be like demo disc. So before the modern day, you would get like a demo disc, and this disc would have like 8 different like demos of games that were upcoming.
And it'd be like one level from that game.
Yeah, about one level. But like the iconic music of demo disc 1. And also some of the other ones, but like the music in these demo discs, so early 2000s, but it's like they're so good in these music. But there were so many games that I never even owned, and I just played the demo.
Yeah, unheard of now.
So Abe's Oddysee, I never played Abe's Oddysee, the full game. I only ever played the demo that's on the first.
So I managed to find it because of that demo. I was like, Mum, I must have this, and eventually we got it. But yeah.
So I did have a later game. I had Abe's Exodus, which was number 2.
Yeah.
So I had that, a full game, but like Total Wipeout that was on one of the demo discs. I never actually owned the game. Ridge Racer, I never owned the game.
Ridge Racer, exactly.
It was only this demo disc, and I was just so obsessed. I didn't need the full game because I just loved playing it.
Yeah, I was so gagged that the first demo disc had, what was it, Crash Bandicoot 3? The first level of Crash Bandicoot 3?
One of them had it, yeah, I can't remember.
I was as you were, and I was like, must get Crash Bandicoot.
Get it. Did you ever on the first demo disc just like watch the dinosaur? It was like a demo of like what the PlayStation could achieve, and it was like literally all it was like a black screen with like a dinosaur, and you could control this dinosaur and just kind of like walk through it, and it was meant to be there kind of like, this is what the PlayStation is capable of, bitch.
Yeah, and that is an era that just doesn't exist now.
Yeah,
like imagine receiving a PS5 demo disc.
I remember like when it would come out, I'd like just beg to get it, and it was so exciting to open this PlayStation magazine and have like a demo disc.
I know. When I first got my PlayStation, I was more excited for the demo disc than the game that it came with. But talking about like more games, like exceptional games from the PlayStation 1. So one game that I really wish they would bring back. I know that I've made you play it once, and this is a really rare game. I've only ever seen one of my friends had it, and like no one else had even heard about it. Team Buddies. Yeah, it was called. Yeah, you basically played this like, it was actually, I think it was an 18 plus. Or maybe a 15 plus.
I remember
it was a really violent game. Basically, you're this like, I guess you kind of look like a pill kind of shape. A capsule shape. And you build your team up, and you go to war with like another team on the platform. And you can like build airplanes and build like machine guns. And it was like a really fast paced, like jumping, like battle to the, it was kind of like a bit kind of Fortnite, but like really basic, if you can imagine. And I've been always wondering, like every now and then I check, like I go, is there a HD remake? Yeah. Has anybody ever thought about this? What about Team Buddies? Anybody remember that? And everyone's like, no. What are you talking about? Never seen it before. And that's one of those things where it's like a proper party game, because you could even get the multi-tap and have 4 people playing as on that game.
That weird thing, like a boomerang, to like put the 4 controllers in.
It's like something that the idea now that you could do split screen 4 times is unheard
then,
of.
Yes,
unheard of.
definitely.
There was so many, like all of the racing games had that ability, like Crash Team Racing, for example, iconic game as well. You could also multi-tap into 4 people playing. Never hear of it now. Never.
So many games now have got rid of like split screen like gaming together. It's weird, which to me seems insane. Like, why would you get rid of that? I mean, I get maybe the younger generation actually just prefers playing on the internet. Yeah. But like, to me, like with my friends playing the original Halo game,
I was gonna
splitting
say
it up.
Halo,
like, because even us, like recently, we
played
played through Halo 1 to 4. You can't play 5 split screen because that's when they started getting rid of it. And I'm like, it was so fun to sit in the same room as you and completing all these games together. And I like even now doing
these
it.
arms are the limbed
Exactly. And when we like,
I'm dead, Luxeria, I'm dead.
It's weird. It's weird that they would take all that out now.
I know, it's such a shame, isn't it?
But
like those are some of the most magical moments in my life. Some of the best memories I have are literally being like with a couple of friends, like playing these games and just being like, oh, this is so difficult, and then just like having like junk food afternoon and like really taking it back to like 1996. The troubles of the world doesn't matter. You're here with your friends on your couch playing video games, and it's such a like. It's a different feeling than like watching a movie or like watching the TV or something with a friend. It's like you're both actively cooperating towards like solving a problem, and it's so much fun. And it's one of those things that I hope more developers in future consider split screening for things, because it is quite a shame now that that's just like it almost like now we've moved into the point of like where you play it online, you just like you're on party, but it's not quite the same as being in the same room. Yeah.
And so did you ever play a game called Heart of Darkness?
This rings a bell.
So you were like a little kid. I can't know exactly what the storyline is. You're like a kid with a little dog, and I don't remember what the storyline, but you're in like a nightmare world. Oh. And it's very Abe's Oddysee, where like it's screen to screen. So you would go off one side and then a new screen would load up. Yeah. And you would like, there was like demons and stuff that would come and kill you. But like, that's one of those games as well that was like a kid's game, but it was actually so terrifying. The death scenes in this, like when the goblins would come and like eat you, like they would decapitate you. Oh my God. You would be like eviscerated and like burnt to a crisp. You'd plunge into like the abyss and die. You just watch the person like fall off a cliff and be like, ah! And demons there'd be like these worm demons on like mounds that would come and just completely eat you alive. Oh my You'd be crushed on the floor. But like Heart of Darkness was another one of those games. I'm very drawn to evil games. Yeah, but like Heart of Darkness, another one where like that was a very of its time game where it's like screen to screen, but it's so difficult. But it's one of those games that I always say to people, if you ever want to play something from that era, Heart of Darkness is a wonderful game.
I never played it. I will have to have a little peep online. Maybe I'll play it on the stream one day and be like, oh my God.
It's so good. It's such a good game. It's so good. Okay, so we have to mention this because we're both incredibly obsessed from like the early days, even up until now, is Dance Dance Revolution.
Oh, DDR girls. My goodness.
I don't understand why in the UK it was called Dancing Stage. Why was it not called DDR here? Because it's called DDR now.
Yeah, literally.
It's weird that they changed the name.
Dancing Stage. Euromix 1.
I don't remember exactly when I first saw a dance mat. I remember just going to my friend Simon's house and he had 2, and I'm like, oh my God, I love it. But like I must have knew about it before then, because we were in year 7 at this point, so we were like 11. But I
was also in year 7 when I discovered
them.
And I can tell you the exact story as well.
But like, I remember going to his house and I was like instantly like, oh my God. So if some of the younger people don't understand, I know it sounds awful to say this, but some people might not know what this is. Genuinely, people might not know what DDR is.
No. You might not know what DDR is.
That's how old we are now. So Dance Dance Revolution is basically like, it was like an up, down, left, right pad, and like arrows would come up, and you had to like step on the pads in time with the music.
Like a meter by a meter plastic. Well, at the time it was when you had them at home. Yeah. Plastic pad that would go on the floor.
Those horrible like plastic
nylon.
pads.
They were a bit like paddling pool material,
and they would rip pretty easy. Yeah. You'd fall over, and
the buttons
slip.
would just stop working. You'd be like, I know I'm winning. Stop it.
Awful. But like, yes, you have to like press up, down, left, right as fast as you can, like in time with the music, and you get better and better. Yeah. But like, I even now play now, and we both have these cool like metal pads.
We commissioned metal pads from Poland. That's how insanely like obsessed we are with it.
But like a DDR completely changed my life, and I used to spend so much time in the arcades playing on those. I used to
compete. I used to compete in DDR competitions in London before I was in London, where I lived here. So I remember the exact first time that I saw DDR. So I became friends with a new friendship group, and I eventually started dating a girl called Oh, I was going to dox her then. No, I'm not going to say her name. I'm going to call her Mary. Mary. So I started dating Mary in like I was year 7. She was year 9. So it's a bit naughty. If you ask me, I know. And she was like, should we go to the arcades with my friends? And I was like, okay. So we went along, and then they were like, we're going to do dancing stage. And I was like, I don't know what this is. But then they went on the arcade machine. So it was an arcade game first. Really, really big. And if you've ever seen it, like, you will see it in arcades. It's even still kind of around now. Some of them.
They're starting to, like, disappear. I mean, it's still massive in Japan, but, like, outside of Japan, it's
Think of it as, like, Beat Saber before VR, but you use your feet, basically. It's that. And it was, like... my first time, so it was on the pier in Brighton, and I was like...
It wasn't in the dip.
In the dip. No, it wasn't in the dip, no. It was on the pier in Brighton, the Palace Pier at the time. It wasn't the Brighton Pier, it was just... And I remember being like, wow, like, what is this? And they were quite good. So my ex, am I going to call her that? Okay, my ex and her friend were quite good at it, but they weren't anywhere near as good as I got in the end, because I was, like, deeply obsessed. As soon as, like, the first day it happened and I saw this machine and then, like, all the loud music and the lights, I was like... I'm going to come and do this myself. Yeah. So then I did. And then I found out that in the Argos catalogue, remember getting them? They had DDR pads. And I was like, for the PlayStation 1, I was like, oh, I've got to buy that. So then I did. And the rest is history.
We haven't played it for a little while, but we play it now.
Yeah,
still.
We try and go into arcades in London every now and then and see.
But
the
Namco arcade's gone.
Oh,
so we can't go there anymore. That was the only place I remember that still had one, because they, again, I know some people might be watching this going, of course not DDR is, but it's actually really difficult to even find
now.
Arcades now.
Yeah.
At least in the UK. Like,
Trocadero is where I used to go, and that doesn't exist.
Awful. So many arcades are closed now. The only one I know now, there's that one in Soho, but we've not actually been down there yet. I don't know if it has a DDR pad, but we'll have to go down and see.
We will. We're going challenge. Scales.
But we loved, DDR was like such a huge impact. I used to spend so much time in my childhood just on DDR constantly. Even though, like, in the original PlayStation games, it would only have like 12 songs. But like, you would just go on over and over and over.
Afro-Nova, Gloria Gaynor,
End of the Century.
End of the Century. Dynamite
Rave, Dynamite Gauntz.
It was so good.
I always loved like Erotic, because Erotic was like a real, like an actual, there was like commissioned music.
Yeah.
It's like, do it all night, do it with me.
And there was even Living La Vida Loca on there as well. My favourite one was da 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 dum da da dum da da dum da 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 dum da da dum dum dum. It was so good.
And I've got Gauntz again. Moving slightly on to like the PlayStation 2. Now, you talk about Final Fantasy. Now, my only real understanding at the time of Final Fantasy was through Kingdom Hearts.
Oh, yes.
Because obviously you play Sora, there's other Kingdom Hearts and other Final Fantasy characters in there. So, like, I understood some of that kind of stuff. But Kingdom Hearts is such a good game. Now, this was still in the era where, like, I did quite like all these Disney games as well. So, like, having that kind of Disney-esque style mashed in with like a a fighting RPG game, like, it was so good. The original Kingdom Hearts game, I even played through it not about maybe a year ago again, because I love it so much. But that original game is so good.
Yeah, absolutely agree. I bought the is it the Remix HD or whatever they brought out, the 2.5 remix or whatever it was. I bought that, and it's still just as nostalgic for me. And I think a lot of people's introduction to like actual hardcore RPGs or JRPGs such as Final Fantasy was through Kingdom Hearts, because it kind of brought in the like oh, it's happy and exciting, but it's actually there's people die of darkness and you have to take down the darkness.
Because
it's a bit strange though to have Donald Duck be like Kyo! It's a little bit weird. Very strange.
But what I love about Kingdom Hearts as well is I think for a lot of people, especially teenagers, I mean, I don't really suffer from this because I'm a gay person, but it's like I think a lot of people are so like scared about enjoying Disney, like especially like ladishment or whatever. And like I love the fact that that's in Kingdom Hearts, is you have that sort of like
vague laddishness
of being able to be like a battle things as if, but you get to enjoy like flying through Peter Pan's world, or like going into the Toy Story worlds and like playing with that, or even just like going into the Winnie the Pooh book.
I wanted to talk a little bit about like MMORPGs, because that's what I'm into now. So moving on a little bit into like the modern era, if you will, which is actually 2010. So I first got into World of Warcraft. So in 2006, when it came out, I remember thinking, I can't believe they're going to make you pay monthly to play a game, girl.
I can't believe it's not butter.
I know, and it's not.
Can you itch my back? There's an itch on my right shoulder blade. Harder. Left. Harder.
So when it first came out in 2006, I was like, I can't believe you're going to pay monthly for a video game. Even though I was playing Final Fantasy XI back in 2002, which was a pay monthly game, but my dad was like, I'm not shopping at VHS again. Basically, it was like, I can't pay that. It's too expensive. £6 a month. Who do you think we are? Does money grow on trees? Well, the answer is yes, actually, because it is a natural substance. Anyway, although not now, it's made of plastic. 2010. So 2010 was the year that I moved to London, and obviously I moved in with Sinestra. And Sinestra was an avid World of Warcraft gamer at the time, and I remember still thinking at this time, like, I can't afford £6. Where's my latte gonna come from, girls? And she was like,
priorities.
Why don't you just get the free trial? And on my terrible laptop that would struggle for like 3 hours rendering a 480p video for YouTube at the time.
Wow.
Do you remember that?
480p.
And I have to upload it overnight because the internet was so slow.
Do you remember the early YouTube days where like it wasn't H or anything, but like you would have a little box button at the bottom that says HQ for high quality.
SD or HQ, yeah. Standard definition or HQ.
Or high quality.
Ridiculous, isn't it? Absolutely bonkers now thinking about it. And now we're like 8K,
Yep.
12K. I want to see inside your balls.
I've just ordered an 8K camera, guys, so you're gonna be able to literally see.
I'm just gonna like put like a blurring filter on me. Just come in and bring like a transparent
Like, why
blur.
is Roly in such focus and Luxeria as a smudge?
Yeah, just like really far in the background, yeah. But yes, so going back to World of Warcraft, I played the free trial. I chose Blood Elf Mage, and the day that I started playing was the day they patched out Wrath of the Lich King and patched in Cataclysm. So Cataclysm is the first expansion that I played, and let me tell you, hours on hours
I
and
can imagine.
years and weeks and months and days of my life has been forcefully enjoyed on that game.
Callum tried to get me to play it. It was like 2016 time. And I think because I got to it so late, I didn't really...
So much was already in the game.
Yeah,
at that
I
point.
felt a bit kind of lost and I didn't really know what I was doing. So I didn't really get into it. But I do understand the appeal, like especially if you've played from the very beginning to still stick to it.
I mean, I didn't get to play from the very, very beginning. But even when I joined, there was a lot to learn. But I kind of just like... Because I already had friends playing it and we would only play it really together. I was like, okay, yeah, no, I'm very into it. And I've always been very into the idea of MMORPGs. I feel like you have to be a certain type of gamer for them to enjoy them.
Yes.
Like, I would predominantly call myself a console gamer. Like, even still now that I game on PCs when I'm streaming and stuff, I still kind of feel that little bit of like, oh, I'd still rather it was on a console.
Yeah.
And now also Final Fantasy 14 is another thing that I play, which is similar
Every
concept.
Monday.
Every Monday, Final Fantasy 14, except these recent ones because I'm doing Pokemon Legends.
We're doing Pokemon. Yeah, we're both playing Pokemon
Legends.
Shake your coconuts.
One of the things that then came out of World of Warcraft that I started playing because another friend told me about it was League of Legends.
Yeah.
Now, League of Legends has
When did that come out?
I don't actually know when League of Legends came out, but I started playing in 2011.
Mm-hmm.
I think it was late 2011, early 2012. Might have even just been early 2012. So the game was like very different back then to what it is now, but still very enjoyable now. Even now, I like drop into it and play it every now and then. It's one of those games because it's completely free. You don't feel like a commitment to like be like, I've got to go home and get me honor points from the battlegrounds. Like that's I used to literally be in town with people and be like, I've got to go home and do the raid. I've got to go home and do the raid on World of Warcraft. League of Legends is one of those games you can pick up and put down because it's completely free and you don't feel any commitment to have to like play it. But one of these things, so you've got like a social, like your friends list on the side.
Yeah.
And this is kind of where like gaming becomes a little bit sad because so I had, for example, Sinestra was on there. I had another friend on there. I had another friend from Wales on there. And eventually, as people like started not playing anymore, you start to see like offline 1 month ago.
Oh, yes.
Offline 2 months ago. Recently, I signed in and Sinestra's was on there and it was offline 11 years ago.
Oh, God.
And I was like, oh. Like, it's one of those moments of like, oh, life has like changed. Like, the last time I saw her on this, life was completely different.
Yeah.
And I think that's one of these things to remember as well is that gaming is so nostalgic.
Yes.
When a game is released, it's kind of like a finite method of saying a story. And it has these nostalgic moments of like the story is lived and told. But with gaming, it's a little bit different to like films. Like you can kind of, although I don't really enjoy like silent movies or whatever, you can go back and watch them and they're still kind of just the same as people watched them back then.
Yes.
With gaming, it's a bit different because like graphics have changed, mechanics have changed, consoles don't even exist ananymore to play them on.
Yeah.
It's kind of that nostalgic factor of like, oh, this happened, I enjoyed it, and now I'm coming back to it, and it almost feels a bit sad and like upsetting.
I do completely agree.
I get that with like the old Pokemon games, like like Game Boy games. I'm like, oh, no, I want to play it, but also, No, I can't. I'm upset, girls. I'm upset.
To me, because as you know, I have such a huge connection with music and have quite a strong emotion to it. It's hearing old game music. Like if I play a game and suddenly the song starts, I'm like, oh my god! Like I remember the feelings when you first played these old games, like when you were a kid playing them, and like the boss music would start, and you're like, oh, here it goes, girl. Like hearing that.
Time to club.
I even got shivers doing that. Even like hearing like the Mortal Kombat music when you get to like Shao Kahn's level, or on Golden Axe, the boss music level on that, like hearing do 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 do, like, and you hear the drums come in, like even just hearing that as an adult, you still get that kind of like rush of endorphin.
Instantly flash back to being like 6 playing that game,
and like you just kind of. It reminds you of like simpler times. I think that's what it is. It just reminds you of times when like not even like it doesn't have to be like easier, but just times when you were happy, or like not saying we're not happy now, because it's not. But
it's a different feeling.
It's a very I completely get that.
I have a very love-hate relationship with nostalgia because like as a concept, it's like fun, but then it just feels a bit like self-indulgent torture after a while. You're just a bit like, oh, I shouldn't be like, I'm just gonna get all upset and be miserable now because it's not Pokemon release day in 1997. Like, do you know what I mean?
The thing is that was actually one of the reasons why. So I sorry for the PlayStation fanboys, I was a hardcore PlayStation man up until the PS2, and I loved the PS2. I've got so many good memories of that. But when the Xbox came out, I fully converted to a jump ship because I was so enamored with Halo. So when the first Halo game came out, I was just, my brother showed it to me, and at this point I was like, I don't want that, no. But I first played Halo and I was instantly like, this is game changing. Like the way that this game is, I hate shooting games where you're just fighting humans. I don't like just normal fighting.
Like
I like
Call of Duty.
I like it to be more supernatural sci-fi. So when I first played Halo, it was like one of the first games I played. I was only 10 years old at the time, and it was just like, oh my god, fighting aliens, it's really fun.
Do you know how massive the Xbox,
the original Xbox was? Huge
heavy beast.
And so some of my fondest memories of like early gaming was playing Halo 1 and 2, 3 to a certain extent with my friends from high school, and we would all bring our TV. Like one of us would bring our TV to the other one's house.
LAN parties was a thing.
And we would have LAN parties where we would just literally connect all our stuff up and just like game for hours and hours playing on Halo. And like those times, like even just seeing Will, like we had my friend Will come, like he's someone I used to do that with. Like even when we talk about it, I'm always like, like remember we sat in your bedroom or sat in your living room and we would just like tell your dad to go away and just sit there for hours like playing these games, and then we'd like eat such junk food, cookies, we'd just live on cookies and like milkshake. And like those times, like those are some of my like fondest memories. One thing I want to say is I first came out in a video game.
Did you?
So after I technically told my mum and my sister I was, well, I said bisexual at the time, but I was gay when I was 11. But
Bye now, gay night.
When I went back in the closet when I went to high school and I got bullied and stuff, there was a game called Fable. Now, in this game, Fable is on the original Xbox. You are in a world where you just have to, you pick between good and evil. So you're a kid, you grow up, and like you have to do tasks and missions and stuff. I don't remember the exact storyline. As you play the game, you become an evil ruler or like a good ruler. I always went evil.
Of
course.
It's
way more fun.
Absolutely. It's the queer experience.
You were punished if you did evil because a lot of the missions you couldn't do because people were scared of you. So you couldn't pick the missions up. But it was still a lot more fun to be evil.
Stop being bussy holes.
But one thing that I loved about this original game is I think it came out like 2004. For the time, this was really progressive. You could marry, be in a relationship with, like you could have a gay relationship with a man.
Gosh.
You could pick to be gay or straight, whatever. You'd buy houses together. You'd live in these houses together. And I remember, I was like, I was talking like I didn't know you could do this. And I was like having a conversation with villagers, and it started coming out saying like flirt, because you a little bit like Sims, where you have little things saying, what do you want to say to this person? And so you can flirt. And I was like, flirt with a man? So I like press flirt, and then like a love heart like appeared above his head, and like I carried on doing it. And I mean, as a young teenager, I was like, I said to Callum recently, I miss gay excitement, where like it was the first time that you would like experience like gay things.
Gay excitement.
And like this is one of those things where like I was like, oh my god, I can have like a relationship with a man, and I had to like keep it secret. So like I bought us a house, because on the profile in like your bio card, it would say if you were gay or straight.
Oh my God, really?
And so I was like, oh, if my brother sees this, he's gonna know that I'm gay. So like, I also like married a woman and had a baby on the side just to be like, if he said anything, I'm like, oh, I just did it to see everything.
Yeah.
But like, it was so amazing in that time. Like, even how
so many straight men are literally living that life right now. Be like, you can't know. I've had a baby and a wife, but on the side,
But like,
I bought a house with a man.
back when I was a teenager, being able to like even just have like this tiny bit of like gay acceptance, even though it was in a game, was monumental to my acceptance of myself.
Yeah.
Like, it's weird to think this stupid game from 2004 like actually kind of in a weird way changed a lot of my self-confidence just because I could marry a man in this game.
It's the stories. It's almost like, so video games are, if you want to get really back to basics, my love, and that nostalgic factor, the music factor, the storytelling is what we've been doing around fires since the dawn of time.
Yeah.
In the evening, from the battle where we've taken down the warthogs for dinner. I don't know, what did we do when we were in the caves? But they would come back and we would sing praises and tell stories about people that have lived before us, our children, all this stuff. And it's these stories that influence everyone around us. And if you're tuned into that, like, this story appeals to me, you're going to remember it forever. Like, these video games that changed your life, you remember forever. Talking about, I just wanted to say one last thing about that nostalgia. You know, when you said like the boss music of Golden Axe was the one. For me, Tekken 2, when you fought your like
mirror self,
storyline mirror self.
Yeah.
So for example, Yoshimitsu fought Kunimitsu.
Yeah.
That level that was, I think it was always level 8 or something in the arcade thing, and that music of like, it's like in my head, and I was like, that is if I hear that music now, I'm like, I'm back playing Tekken 2.
Those old Tekken games, I spent so much time.
I think the last real Tekken game that I played was Tekken Tag 2.
Mm-hmm. And I didn't like Tekken Tag 2. By the time that came out, I was like, my love for fighting games kind of weaned a bit.
It had weaned, definitely, for me.
I love Mortal Kombat, but like the most recent games, I get very bored of just one-on-one fighting now. I need more to it. My attention span is kind of a little bit less.
Changed.
Like, I know a lot of people don't like the 3D era of Mortal Kombat, but Mortal Kombat Deception is one of my favorite games ever because of the conquest mode.
Oh, that's good.
Where you had to walk around and solve mysteries and unlock things and like fight people.
I hate what they did to Mortaro though.
Mortaro, yeah, when they made
two-legged Mortaro.
That was Armageddon. Yeah, I miss those 3D eras.
Oh. And they're not
Time
coming,
to kill myself.
Yeah, they're not coming back, are they, girls? No, so deal with it. Get a real job.
For me, I haven't been gaming a lot in the more recent time because I'm so online now. I'm always like, I'm gonna miss something. So like the fact that we've kind of blended our love for video games on,
absolutely, it's changed my life. Starting Twitch
amazing,
changed my life.
It's so strange just playing a video game with people watching you, like how much fun it is.
Yeah. It's
weird,
isn't it?
I think maybe for us, people who grew up with that as being the norm, or you play it with people, maybe it kind of taps into that kind of retro. So I'm burping, that retro feel that maybe we kind of feel like, although they're not actively playing with us, they are kind of playing with us.
Oh yeah, absolutely. The vibes of the whole event. It is enjoyable, very enjoyable. So if you aren't following us on Twitch, hop over to Twitch. Roly West, Luxeria Plays.
Yes. I don't want to
talk for hours.
I don't want to end this one because I'm having so much fun.
I know.
I knew that this was going to be such a fun one to film.
Yeah,
that, like,
absolutely.
Because we still want to do like a nostalgia podcast episode where we talk about like games we played like in school and like weird rumors that went round.
So I've also got like cartoon shows, toys, like 90s nostalgia. We could just call it 90s nostalgia.
Yeah, I do feel like we'd like to not like an actual nostalgia one, but with the gaming one, we had to have it on a separate one because it's so vast.
It's so vast. I've played so many games, and there's even some now that, as we were talking about, and I was unlocking in my memories. Like if I really went back and thought about a lot of things, I bet there's a couple in there that even I've forgotten about.
Yeah, well, saying that, as you're talking, I loved. There was a game called Point Blank.
Oh yes.
It was like a shooting game. So you have like a light gun, and at the time, light guns for TVs were insane. The fact that you could like shoot at a TV and it would know what it was, because they don't work with modern LCD screens. So you can't. I mean, now we've got motion controls anyway, but like back then, if you never played Point Blank, it was this game where a little bit like WarioWare, where it's these micro mini games, but it was all about shooting. Yeah. So you had to like shoot the targets, and one was like shoot the rabbit, and it was like these like fake rabbits would jump up, and that was so much fun. Like Point Blank, and they made a second version. It was called Ghoul Panic, which was like little ghosts. It was like a ghost version.
I remember that Ghoul Panic.
But those were really fun. Oh my god, like light gun games. It's like you talk about doing that like iToy. I absolutely love the iToy.
Excellent example.
People always say that iToy was like shit or whatever, but like the iToy was way ahead of its time.
It was. I think it was too ahead of its time.
In like the early 2000s when the iToy. So basically the iToy would use like a little webcam, and you would there was like games that would come on the screen.
Sports Champion.
So I had most of the iToy ones, but iToy Groove.
Oh,
so it was like basically DDR, but it was with your hands.
Yeah.
So these little symbols, it was like three.
It was like,
it was like you had to move with the music and tap the buttons when like the the balls would hit the targets. But like the iToy was so amazing. Oh my god, I spent hours and hours and hours playing like the boxing one, or like when you even just when you had to clean windows. Like it's so stupid, but like it was so fun. Like the iToy was oh my gosh, Age of Empires.
Oh, I never played Age of Empires. Did you know? But I did basically Command and Conquer, which is very similar.
The original Age of Empires game, I lost days and days and weeks to Age of Empires. Just like so people don't know Age of Empires is you started off in like the Stone Age and you had
it's a civilization building game.
Yeah,
isn't
so like get wood gathered to build more things, and you could advance to like the Iron Age and like the all the other stuff at the top.
So enjoyable,
amazing, like such an amazing game. Again, we've gone on for so long that like I feel like we should maybe
this is gonna. If you want any more of this, and we can talk about, probably like another 100 games. Or so.
There is.
Let us know because we'll do a part 2.
It's so hard to make this short. I was like, there's so many more games we want to talk about.
I know.
So guys, I think we're gonna just leave that there. We kind of didn't really get to modern games at all.
No, we didn't. Well, I touched on World of Warcraft, but 2010 one.
Yeah. So we should definitely do a part 2 of this. If you're really interested, please let us know. And we can talk about some more, because I've got, again, Mega Drive, so many more Mega Drive games. So thank you for watching. Thank you for listening.
Yeah.
Make sure that you go check out our other episodes. There is a playlist down in the description. And if you're listening on SoundCloud or iTunes or Spotify, again, make sure you come follow us on those accounts. Give us a nice 5-star rating or a thumbs up, whatever you do. Give us a nice, on iTunes, if you could write us a nice iTunes review as well, that'd be really great. But thank you for everyone who has been reviewing and all that stuff. That is really amazing and helpful. And of course, if you're watching us on YouTube, please hit the like button, subscribe for more, and again, there's a playlist in the description to all the rest of our episodes. Leave us a comment. Yeah, please tell us some of your most favorite memories of video games.
Yes.
If you are slightly older as well, please tell us some of the most nostalgic things and like really fun memories you've had growing up as well.
Storylines, etc.
Yeah, because I love the comments on these gag videos because they're so good.
They're always intense. They're always like 8 paragraphs
long.
Yeah,
I love it. I absolutely love it. So me and Luxeria are always in the comments section.
Always in the comments.
So please leave us some nice stuff down below.
Yeah.
But anyway, we will see you very soon for another episode of Gag
of the Millennial GAG.
We're going to scold with some more Assam and Darjeeling and Chai.